I think there's a subtle art to being a so-called LolCow, and indeed, my assessment might go against what most people would consider to qualify as a LolCow in the first place. See, the strict definition of a LolCow is someone who routinely makes a fool of themselves in an entertaining way, such that they become a sustainable source of laughter to be milked. A LolCow. But that word sustainable is kind of complicated because it's quite difficult for someone to consistently make a fool of themselves in a way that actually makes you laugh. Because it doesn't work if they're in on the joke. It definitely doesn't work if they are just pretending to be foolish in order to cynically grift lots of views and attention. No, a LolCow has to be self-deluded such that they can continue making a fool of themselves, convinced that they're not. And for me, this points to the often overlooked secret weapon of the LolCow. Underlying everything, there needs to be some discernible talent or capacity for success. I remember the time when I first started feeling like the American version of The Office was inferior to the British version based on this being absent. There's this episode in the first season where they're playing basketball and Michael is really bad at basketball, but he's convinced that he's actually good. It doesn't work because while the self-delusion is there isn't the underlying nugget of talent that explains why he has this self-delusion. By contrast, in the British version of The Office, David Brent at one point just starts playing the guitar and leading a sing-song in the middle of an important seminar. Obviously, that's very inappropriate, awkward, and presents a level of self-delusion from him that he thinks this is something people want him to do, but what really makes the scene work is that he actually is a pretty talented guitar player. The subtle art of being a LolCow is, yes, you have to be self-deluded, but there also has to be some degree of talent that justifies why you have that self-delusion. Boogie2988 definitely does play up his LolCow status for financial gain, I don't think anyone could deny that, but he has had some entertaining and protracted arcs which have been genuinely entertaining to watch unfold. What will he do next? But again, the key thing that hangs over this is that it's only entertaining because he once was a very respected content creator. There was once a time when Boogie was considered the face of the platform, and his journey on YouTube was for many inspirational. He's funny because he does clearly have this sense of haughtiness that he is ultimately, by right, a successful person, and that makes all of the ridiculous things he does in spite of that far more entertaining. But with that said, he's literally part of a podcast called LolCow Live, and that ruins things because it means that being a LolCow is part of his brand. It's something he actively chooses to play up, and without the authenticity, it's not as good. Someone who was really good at sustaining the LolCow thing for a while was Regina-based Canadian rapper Uncle Adams. At some point I may need to make a whole video about him. Basically, he was a huge believer in manifesting and the power of positive thinking, and he wanted to make motivational raps to show people that anything is possible if they believe hard enough. And just to give you a taste of this guy's overall flavor, he went over $200,000 in debt, committed credit card fraud by buying items with store credit cards and selling them on to make money, and tried to sell a hat for $10,000, insisting it was a smart investment because just imagine how much it will sell for when I'm the most famous rapper ever. He documented his journey to try and make the first million of many in the music industry, and it was thus entertaining to watch in real time his journey of spiraling debt. But to me, what made him really interesting was that he was actually not a terrible rapper. Like, his raps weren't just like, yo, 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 I'm in the hood and it's all good. I'd say he has some genuinely good songs in their own right. Songs with a message, songs with emotional impact, songs that I still do sometimes unironically listen to just to be like, oh man, this guy's got bars. And it's not just that he has some talent, he also had some genuine success. Like, there was a period of time where he was actually touring around schools, presenting his motivational raps to people, and he could have built a career based off that. What makes him entertaining is he believed his own hype. He thought, based on the success he'd already had, that he could harness that motivational rap energy and that power of positive thinking in order to become a world-renowned rap god superstar. So again, you have those three important ingredients: a series of foolish, self-destructive decisions, a self-delusion that is justifying it, but an underlying degree of talent and success that does partially justify that self-delusion. But even then, the self-delusion has its limits. While he had some reason to believe he could achieve success, it was only about 2 years that he was actively committed to his goal of earning $1 million in the music industry. He kept going for 2.5 years, sustaining a modest YouTube presence, but after that he stopped uploading entirely, he hasn't uploaded in a very long time, and he's even gone on to delete his At Least a Million Mission series. The point is that the balance is an unstable one. There's one thing I missed off from the LolCow formula. You need to have a certain degree of self-delusion, but you also need to be at least a little bit self-aware in order for it to be entertaining. Someone who isn't aware of their failures and limitations at all isn't worth watching because there's no sense of emotional impact to it. What you need is someone who does recognize their own failures, and there is that impact that comes from that, but they nonetheless keep pursuing the next thing, believing that will be their ultimate success, no matter how many times they fail. But that's an unstable balance, because if someone is ultimately aware of every single failure they make, there is going to come a point where they give up. Anyway, so here's my favorite LolCow. This guy called John Holstead. Again, he fits the formula really well. He not only has some genuine talent, but also drive and good work ethic, and on top of that, he actually has had some success already. If you go onto his channel, you'll see he has a video with several million views. That's more success than I'll probably ever achieve. Probably more than you will. But you'll notice that all of his most successful videos are from 2 or 3 years ago, and that's an unfortunate situation to be in. And that's actually not something I would ever want to make fun of, because some of my favorite YouTubers who I think make absolutely fantastic content have nonetheless suffered huge drop-offs in their views, which I would attribute entirely to the YouTube algorithm just being awful. To some extent, it has actually happened to me, and I live in moderate fear that it could happen to an even more extreme channel destroying extent any day. But okay, so let me just tell you what got me super interested in John Holstead. About 2 years ago, he started a series all about starting with $0 and trying to earn $100,000 as quickly as possible. The initial constraint of the series is that he can't go into debt. He just has to earn money in order to make more money, and therefore he starts off making some very poor decisions. Like, because he can't start off with any capital up front, he has to enter into the gig economy working as an Uber Eats cyclist. Turns out cycling is very exhausting, so he needs an e-bike. But he doesn't own an e-bike, so he has to rent an e-bike, meaning that it's over halfway through the working day before he's even paid off the cost of renting the e-bike and can then actually start earning any money. So that gives you an impression of why this guy is so entertaining, because he genuinely does believe in that hustle grind set culture that you can start with nothing and just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and become successful. The thing is, he doesn't earn enough money to cover his living costs, shockingly, so he ends up going into debt anyway, and at that point, the floodgates are open. He goes from renting an e-bike because he thinks the upfront cost of buying one would be too much, to then just buying literally anything that he reckons could help him start a business. And yeah, by the end of the series, he ends up over £20,000 in debt. In terms of the content in between then, he does start pressure washing people's driveways. That's the ultimate business he settles on, and there are points where he's earning like £600 a day from doing that, which seems pretty successful. But again, it stays entertaining because he's so obsessed with growing the business and always moving on to the next step that he's actually spending more money on ads to get more jobs than he's actually earning from the jobs he's doing. So even during his most profitable, successful weeks, he's still getting more and more into debt. But the greater entertainment value comes from the fact he actually hates pressure washing people's driveways and therefore keeps pivoting to loads of other jobs instead. The most morally offensive is when he decides to start a wedding planning business despite knowing literally nothing about wedding planning, and yet he still expects people to be paying him thousands of pounds for doing that for them. And he deludes himself into thinking that starting a gaming channel is a genuinely good idea to earn large amounts of money. And all of that is what kept me watching this guy for over a year. All of these schemes that were very clearly motivated by a lot of confidence, but never actually ended up working out. That's just like so entertaining to me. And then, just as I was starting to get into his content, 8 months ago, he stopped uploading. Nobody knew what had happened to him, but I think in the comments section we all reached the same conclusion. It's the classic final destination for any LolCow. The self-awareness that made his content entertaining ultimately meant that there was a point where he just had to admit what he was doing was a failure and he gave up. A few months later, he made a community post where he said he was actually making lots more money now from the pressure washing, and he attributed this to no longer focusing on uploading videos to YouTube. So for me, this was a double whammy of sadness. Firstly, he's not uploading anymore, and secondly, even if he was uploading, apparently the business is now successful, and the entertainment value is in the struggle. And then, like magic, a few weeks ago, he appeared out of nowhere saying, "Hey everyone, I'm going to post a major update video soon." And I saw that the video he was uploading was titled saying that he was now earning $25,000 a month in revenue, which is pretty insane. And I thought, well, at least the update will be entertaining because I can see how he achieved his success and it could be a rare, happy ending to a LolCow journey. Instead, the video was actually pretty bad. Like, over half of it was just a recap about what had already happened rather than providing any updates for the people who'd been already following what had happened and already knew all of that stuff. And he glossed over many of his most entertaining failures, presumably out of embarrassment. But the video did give me a small amount of hope because it ends with him revealing that he still doesn't enjoy pressure washing and is still trying to pivot to something else. Indeed, the video ends with him saying that he's going to be selling a course that will teach you how to run a successful business just like him. I'm pretty sure he's deleted it, but I remember in one of his previous videos, he actually said that you shouldn't take people who offer financial advice seriously because if they genuinely knew how to be financially successful, they would be too busy taking their own advice, getting really rich, instead of trying to charge you a few £100 because they're going to teach you the method. Indeed, much like this guy started a wedding business while knowing nothing about the wedding industry, it's hard not to get the same vibes here. Indeed, I sort of don't really trust the video's claim that he is actually making $25,000 a month in revenue. There aren't really any details provided about how he managed to be making so much money, and also, he has been deleting at least some comments that have suggested that he's not being honest. And significantly, the smoking gun as far as I'm concerned, is that if you look up the name of his business online, there is a website for it, but if you click on that, it says that the website is no longer up and running. Yeah, another entertaining thing about LolCows is they often like to bend the truth and many times just outright lie. Like, another good example of him bending the truth is that the video is titled 25-year-old starts 25k a month business, but this guy isn't 25. He's turning 28 years old this month. But I guess he was 25 when he started the business. I don't know, I started uploading to YouTube when I was 18 years old, but I think it would be kind of dishonest for me to make a video called 18-year-old starts successful YouTube channel, because it wasn't successful until many years after I was 18, and I'm not 18 anymore. But yeah, all of this gives me hope that this guy will start some other insane, entertaining scheme once this business plan selling thing doesn't work out. Because yeah, he's already communicated a desire to move away from that pressure washing business. I mean, the website for the business doesn't exist anymore, even though apparently it was earning a huge amount of money. Crazy thing is, I actually gave this guy some good advice when he was still uploading the video series. I said, hey, stop spending so much money on acquiring jobs, meaning that for the small number of jobs you do, you get to keep more of that money. And then, with the free time from doing fewer jobs, you could do YouTube as a side hustle. Because when I was watching the series, I was thinking, I kind of wish that's what I would have done. Like, done a very high-paying job where you don't have to do that many hours, and then I could just do YouTube on the side with all of my free time. I paid someone £600 for 2 days of work plastering this house. If I learned how to plaster, I could make £300 a day, and I wouldn't even have to work that many days a month to be massively supplementing my YouTube income. I guess the main theme of this video has been balance. The balance between working hard and working smart, between making money and being happy and fulfilled with what you're doing, but most importantly, the artful balance between repeatedly failing at your ambitious goals, but still being deluded enough to consistently keep going in spite of constant failure. Thank God for people like that.